Well, hello everyone. It's the silly one again, and again is such a rare word. 2 days in a row. Wow, quite impressive. Again, my kind of day off. Normally, I would be travelling at this point, and not returning home for another 3 hours or something or other like that. Maybe a bit more than that. But I have the day off for whatever reason it is. So, as promised, I am going to do the Commander's Edition sealed deck from the tournament that was ran a little while ago. So if we rewind, Michael Cohen ran a tournament. I think it started about April/Easter time. The idea was that you had one of the 8 Commander's Edition starters, not boosters, and he removed the arguably broken Smoke Jagular one, mainly because it's totally missiles and none of the decks have anything to deal with missiles. And if you're really, really lucky, you might get 1 point defense system in your draw. And given that it was a CE starter deck, 1 Arsenal booster and 1 Crusade booster, you were not going to get a point defense system. Okay, so how can I be sure of that? Well, first of all, the starters have 50 preset cards, and then there are an additional 10 random cards drawn from a pool. The pools for commands and missions are the same for Innisphere and Clan, and the mechs are obviously different. So the command and missions that you can draw are the same regardless of deck, and I happen to know, because I did all the research and found out all the cards that were included and put them all in and did all the coding and all the markup and everything else, that a point defense system isn't in there at all. It's not even an option, which is why everyone whinges and moans about the Smoke Jag deck being broken. Personally, I think, yay, Smoke Jags get to be good at something. Fair enough. Okay. So, Michael and the participants logged on. The participants drafted their starter decks, which I'll have a look at in Lackey in a minute, and an Arsenal booster and a Crusade booster. And on top of that, we were also given 1 additional basic resource of each type. So 1A, 1L, 1M, 1P, and 1T. Yours truly was allocated to the Steiner deck, which I wasn't overly excited about, to be honest. There are a number of cards in there that I'm not the biggest fan of, and the Steiner deck generally revolves around some heavy subterfuge. So, for reference, the cards in grey on the screen are the standard 50 card set in the Steiner deck. So you get Adam Steiner, you get Coventry Metalworks, you get the Steiner High Command, Civilian Settlement, Steel Mech, Disguise Coordinates, even though it was banned, it was allowed, Misrouted Command, Treachery, and Unnamed Sources. So there's a couple of pretty good, pretty decent, powerful subterfuge cards in there, but they are very, very subterfuge based, which requires politics. Okay, it only gets 1 mission, which is Brutal Punch, which isn't great, for want of a better phrase. It has some reasonable units. The Banshee, Berserker, Revised Caesar, Commander, Hatchet Man, Night Sky, Penetrator, the Stealth, the Wolfhound, and the Zeus, all of which are Steiner affiliated, and another 6 or so units, which again are fixed, but they're generic Innispheres. So you get a Quick Draw, a Stalker, a Tree Bucket, or Trebuchet, Centurion, Rakshasa, and a Revised Spider. Okay. So I wasn't exactly excited about this for a number of reasons. However, what was quite good is the resource distribution for the Steiner deck, which has 7 assembly, 3 logistics, 5 munitions, 4 politics and 5 tactics, and we were also allocated an additional 1, so those can increase. The mechs and the missions and the commands are listed there. Okay. What I did find a little bizarre was that although the CE decks are slightly focused, they are a cohesive deck in the respect that, okay, they mightn't be the best cards, but they do try and do something. Whereas if you looked at an original limited starter, which is 60 cards, it's a random mishmash of absolutely everything, which can be good, which can be bad. So I was a bit surprised that this was restricted to a 45 card deck, given that arguably you've already got a 60 card deck that works, and what you would probably do is rationalise that and embellish it with some of the cards that you drew. So I was a little surprised it was 45. Maybe it should have been 60. I think that needs looking at with the CE starters, the Commander's Edition starters, because as I said, they are already somewhat focused, unlike the randomness of the limited stuff. So, what did I draw? Okay, and I've rationalised my window so you can't see the deck at the moment, because when you draw, you use a card pool and you pull across the cards. Okay, so my Arsenal booster gave me a Bulldog, which I'm quite happy with. Okay, it's a 1 cost, but it's a 2/3/3. 1 cost for 3 damage, not bad. The buyout on the 1 munitions isn't the end of the world. It's not a bad little card. The AC variant is double buyout, L&M, but it's 0 and a free deploy. I could see that going in the deck if I went that way. And I also drew I drew all 3 Bulldogs. 2/3/1 with a missile, but logistics buyout. Okay. I drew the carpet bombing mission, which I think is possibly a little underrated. I think it's underrated because it requires munitions, and most people don't play with munitions. But basically everything gets 2 damage, and the requirement here is only to have munitions in play. So if you're playing the Ghost Bear deck when there's 2 Dasher Primes coming at you and you haven't got anything to block, but you have got munitions in and tactics, which you'll need to play it, you can drop this and kill both of them even if they are going to hurt you. So it's not the best mission, but I think if used correctly and tactically can be quite good. The cavalry, the 032 chopper with VTOL, which is quite nice. It has that dash ability, which is sadly missing from Revival. I think that slows the game down and stagnates it and just makes it a bit boring to deploy stuff without the dash, because you know you're not going to get punished for doing whatever you want. Whereas this, with out it goes straight into the patrol region, potentially you could ping a couple people for 2 here and there. That's not bad. Quite like that. Desert Wasteland, not the best enhancement. The only thing to say with it is the terrains are quite hard to remove. Basically, you need creative terraforming, which requires someone to have drafted it. So if you've got a terrain, they're definitely worth it, and probably worth putting out, because they're probably going to stick. There's probably not going to be nothing to remove them. There are 1 or 2 other cards, but hey. Play on your scrap heap, Desert Wasteland scraps all terrain card. Each vehicle receives 1 damage. Damage from a mech's overheat option is applied to its structure instead of its armour. Use this ability during a mission whose target is a region enhanced by Desert Wasteland. Okay, that's great when the other guy is playing an overheat deck. Note that it applies to your mechs as well. It's just all things, and vehicles get 1 damage. From a strategic point of view, I'm thinking that goes in the deck when I'm playing against Comstar, because Comstar's got a load of overheats. I'm not sure about what else is going on. There are 1 or 2 Ghost Bear mechs and a few other bits and bobs, but useful would be how I would describe that, and hard to remove. Ferrofibrous upgrade, prevent 3 damage, draw a card, free deployment, 0 to L. I need to play it on a vehicle. and I'm not sure it's worth playing on my Bulldog. That one's probably going to end up in the bin. Final Push. Oh boy, was I happy to have one of these. Play only when blocked. Each of your mechs and vehicles may deal 2 damage to the target. Such a great card in this kind of format. 2 damage long range on a group of, say, 5 units is 10 through to the stockpile. It is a great finisher. It even makes it into some competitive decks. So having that card in draft as a stalemate breaker, brilliant. Really, really happy from that. It's an uncommon. You get 3 uncommons and a rare in the pack. So yeah, is it 3? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's 3 uncommons. So having that as one of my uncommons, I was very happy with that. Fire Falcon C, another of my uncommons. It's a straight 4, which is not bad. Means I can put it in any deck probably. A 0-4-4 isn't that great on the armor and structure, but that 4 damage with AP, meaning I can get 5 out of this, and it's fast. It's quite a nice unit to have. I'd rather have a Black Lanner A, which is one of the other fast units available in Arsenal, but beggars can't be choosers. It's what you drew. This is something I think I can use to reasonable extent. Fire from Cover, again, probably not the best mission, but useful. Choose one of your units. That mech gets +1 attack. Nice. Prevent 1 damage. Nice. It's not risky combat. It's not a few other things, but it could be enough of a difference to stop a mech surviving, either theirs because of the extra damage or keeping yours alive. So that's got potential. Okay. Ramming Speed. Oh yeah. The card I love to hate. I love the artwork, although it doesn't show up on the card very well. Choose a vehicle, no effect, nothing. 1 to 3. That vehicle gets 3 to 6 attack and scrap it at the end of the mission. It's basically sacrifice for the dragon for vehicles. It might be worth it if I've got a lot of vehicles, but at the moment I've got 3 bulldogs and a cavalry. I've got 4, so I might be playing 1 mission that only goes or is valid for 4 units in my deck of 45, 1 in 11. I'm not convinced. Could be fun though. Not something that a lot of people would be expecting. Okay. I drew a Spectre. Again, super duper happy with this. Fast unit, 062 ECM jump. Great for blocking some of those inner sphere mechs and dealing with those. So, nice draw on that. My rare, Trial of Blood Right. A 1-3p. A bit better than some people think for. Scrap it when it's revealed. Search your stockpile for a pilot card. Deploy that card and then activate it. So this does work with things like the O'Bannon sisters. If you pick one, you have to activate it to get the other, whereas Solaris Contracts cheats them into play and it doesn't activate them. It puts them directly into play, so it doesn't work. And likewise, it works with the warrior cast or whatever else it is with the pilot's bonuses stack and stuff like that. It doesn't count as a stockpile, count as a deployment, and you get to shuffle, which is quite nice. If only I've got a pilot. That's an issue. No pilots and something to draw them with. That's politics. And finally, the vehicle repair barn. 0. Okay, tap for a resource. I mean, basically a resource. That's okay. Although I do have enough AMP and Ts. If I was short on that, then I might consider it. Repair 1 point of damage to each of your vehicles. It's quite nice being each of your vehicles, but at the moment I've only got 4, so probably not worth a slot. And then finally, War Funds. We've talked about it. It's great. It's useful. It gives me a bit of flexibility. So on the whole, I've got War Funds, Final Push, Probably the Spectre. Spectre's just on the edge. If I didn't have a Spectre, I wouldn't be at the end of the world, but I'm super happy I've got it. But War Funds for reliability, but Final Push is the great card there. My rare of Trial of Bloodright is a bit... it's a bit pants. There are much better elites... Well, sorry, not elites, rares in Arsenal that I would have been happy with. So let's turn it the other way and let's look at my Crusade draw. I know everyone's just seen the card that's flashed up. All right. So first of all, the Bubble Michelin Man Annihilator, 6, 4L, 4M, a 376L for 2. Not great. Slow to get on the table at 6. Remember, with a 45 card deck, you're probably looking at dealing 20 damage. You could easily do that in 5 turns. The game could be over before you can even deploy this. Horrible. My rare, Aris Sung. Super happy with this. Great pilot. Way better in this format than something like Martha Pride, because Martha Pride works with Jade Falcon mechs, and I haven't got any Jade Falcon mechs. All right, maybe the Fire Falcon. But +2 attack and +2 initiative. Count the number of units in your group and prevent that amount of damage to one of your units. Very, very good. She's costly at 4 though, and I haven't got Solaris, so I'm going to have to pay for her. So that's the only downside. She's a good card. Paying for a bit of a problem. You're thinking, do I pay 4 for Aris, or do I put out, a unit, or possibly 2 units? Do I pay 4 for a pilot, or do I put a Zeus on the table or something? So although she's good, does she fit, and is she worth it, is my question. I know some people at this point will be banging their heads against the wall and crying and saying, put her in, put her in, put her in. I did have a bit of a dilemma on that. Backing of the Grand Council, I have to pay 1 for it. It provides me munitions and politics, which is okay. All right, and there is some synergy there with some of the Steiner politics stuff if I want to play it. But it's weak at 3-2 and can die easily. Black Hawk KU, 284 overheat, 3+3 jump. That's quite nice stats. It's 7 though. Medium. Good stuff. 7 is slow to get on the table. And like I said with the Annihilator, the game can be over before you put one of those on the table. So it's a bit pricey for me. Whether I put it in or not, I don't know. The Black Hawk, the missile variant 171, missile 2 jump. Yeah, it's okay. A&M works quite well. Enfield, 4 cost. Okay, it's AM and T, but a 174L for 1. That's pretty decent. Entropy-based warfare, politics and tactics. Yeah, it fits with the Steiner stuff, but is it going to change that? Each opposing unit under construction costs are a resource more to activate. Note that it says unit, it doesn't say command card. So it could slow the guys down, but you've got to draw it, and it's costly on the buyouts. The Exterminator, which I think is okay, and Mitch hates. Sorry, Mitch had to say it. 172 overheat, 1+1 jump. It's a meat shield. It's medium. It's a good blocker. It's not going to change the game, but it's probably going to hang around a fair bit. It's worth considering. Fast deployment, logistics, scrap when revealed, make an additional 3 deployments this turn. There's only 1 card. If I draw it straight off, great. But if I draw that, when the game is tight and I've got 7 cards left, it's not going to give me any bonuses. Hankyu C, fast mech, nice, 044 overheat, 3+2 jump. Okay, I haven't got anything really that works with jump apart from jumping from a mission. But with 6, attack potentially is a good killer of various things, such as our backing for the Grand Council and any 4-2 or 3-3 based resources. Thinking of you, good old resource broker, can be killed on its own, and 6 damage out of one of those isn't bad. Intimidation tactics. Play only during battle and only if you've lost initiative. Each opposing unit gets -1 attack. -1's not bad. It has to be played in the right thing. It's the kind of thing that makes a few things survive. Worth considering. Whether it'll make main deck or not, I don't know. Nexus. Okay, it's a 1 cost. It's a 0/2/2 jump anti-missile, but it's fast. It blocks dashers. Okay, it dies. The dasher dies. Hey, I'll trade a Nexus for a Dasher Prime every day of the week. And basically the same goes for the Raptor 0/3/2. It's fast, needs blocking. 1A. So they're quite nice. The Rhino, 3/11 0 missile, 3 for 5. It's horrible. I'm not a great fan of the picture. It does look a bit naff. I suspect the original's way better and it's come across pretty badly. And finally, we have the Zukov, which 2 isn't bad for cost for a 2/7, and it's 2 damage with Alpha 2, so you can get 4 out of it. That's not bad, not bad at all. So the bits now are, what did I draw outside my standard Steiner deck? What was the 10 ones? Well, there was a bit of a problem with the patch and it pulled in clan mechs, but then it pulled it in for everybody, so it's basically the same. But it did pull in the same amount, all the normal commands and missions. So I got a Corvus, which isn't bad for 4, a 1/6/5, 5 damage, 4 cost. Koshi Prime, 0/3/2, another dasher blocker, thank you very much. Peregrine, a 0/5/5 for 4, again, pretty decent, and it's medium. The Irby, the slow Irby, but a 1/4/3 with Alpha 1, you can get 4 damage out of a 1 cost unit. That's worth it. This card, Heroic Sack. Along with Final Push, this was a great draw for me. It's a great finishing card, and I did use it on a number of occasions, which I'll talk about in a bit after I've done the deck. Hidden Reserves, draw 3 cards. It's logistics. How useful that is in this format, I'm not sure. Misrouted Command works with the Steiner and the Subterfuge. Worth a shout. I drew 2 sharpshooters. And how many mechs have I got with Alpha Strike? I've got an Enfield and an Irby. And that's it. So I've got 2 pilots and 2 mechs that go on. It's not reliable enough for me. So I've got 2 cards there that are arguably practically useless. Strip Mine, it's okay. It's a resource boost if you're playing logistics. Treachery was pulled. It's a great finisher, but it's costly without the politics. It might be worth playing 1 copy without politics, thinking I need a mid to game ender, and if I can pay 7 for it, it's going to win me the game. And finally, again, the other card that I'm really, really pleased with, drawing an unopposed, something like that Fire Falcon Prime. Was it the Prime? Fire Falcon, whichever Fire Falcon it was. It's up the top there. 4 damage with an unopposed, another 4. That's 8. And the deck's 45 cards, and you're looking probably doing about 20, 25 damage. That's huge. Works well with something like the Peregrine as well at 5 damage, the Corvus at 5 damage. So I think I've got 3 really good missions. Arguably enough to break a game. I've got unopposed. Let's just where are they going? They're types. So let's do the missions. I've got Final Push, I've got Heroic Sack, and I've got unopposed. Which, great. It gives me options. I'm not reliant on 1 card. I can hopefully pull 1 of them. To be honest, I hardly ever pulled unopposed. I never had unopposed in a situation where it helped me win the game. Heroic Sacrifice won me a couple of games. Final Push won me a couple of games. Combinations thereof. Okay. So, this is the deck I decided to go with. And my gut instinct when I was looking at this was, I can go AMT. And I'm thinking, I'm not sure I want to go ATP, the politics route. And that was my thought at the time. And I've done this to help and explain why. So let's just have a look at this. So what I've done here is basically on this wonderful lotus flower Venn diagram thing, thanks to Lucid Chart, by the way, put all of my units in and all of my commands based on their buyouts. So over here in assembly, I've got assembly, munitions, tactics, logistics, and politics going around. Let's get rid of that so you can see it. And pop out a little. So tactics, pure tactics cards. I've got Aris Sung and those 2 sharpshooters, which aren't going anywhere. L and tactics, logistics and tactics. I've got the cavalry. L, I've got a bulldog, I've got a spider, I've got fast deployment, ferrous fibrous, strip mine and hidden reserves. Over on the M's, I've got the bulldog, the little tank, I've got the exterminator, the peregrine, the rakshasa and the Zukov. A&M, blackjack, commando, corvus, quick draw, stalker, stealth, trebuchet, urban mech. A, I've got banshee, centurion, hatchetman, koshi, nexus, raptor and Zeus. A&T, Berserker, Hanku Prime and the Spectre. L&M, the Bulldog, the Annihilator and the Rhino. AM&T, Blackhawk, Enfield and the Penetrator. And before we go any further, people say, why are they bulleted on the left and in the middle and on the right? That's the speed. So if it's a bullet, it's fast. If it's in the middle, it's medium. And if it's on the right, it's slow. And then with no asset buyouts, I've got a Caesar, a Fire Falcon Prime, a Night Sky and a Wolfhound, backing of the Grand Council, Desert Wasteland, Vehicle Repair Barn and War Funds. And then that glut of politics cards that the Steiner deck has, plus Trial of Blood Right to pull a pilot, which I'm thinking I'm only going to have one pilot, and a misroute in there. I think treachery is missing from there. I think there's a treachery missing from there. My apologies for that. Okay. But what this allows me to see is if I go with A and T, and A and T and no asset, it shows me where my units are. So if I just go A and T, I've got Berserker, Hanku, Spectre. So I've got 3. Banshee, Centurion, Hatchetman, Koshi, Nexus, Raptor, Zeus. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got another 7, so I'm up to 10. And then I've got Caesar, Fire Falcon, Night Sky, Wolfhound. So those are my units. And then I can play some politics if I want. My problem is I'm not convinced with the politics and the subterfuge because it takes a deployment. And for it to take a deployment, it's got to be worth it. So let's look at misroute. If you misroute Commander Mech, fine. It stays there for 3 turns, and arguably that's enough to nullify it for 3 turns while you do something else. So it can break the game. But it doesn't stop a pilot getting moved. And that mech can sit and do whatever else. And then I'm thinking, are the other cards worth it? And I have to get these down to 45 cards, not 60, 45 cards, and make it reliable. So although I felt AMT was the way to go, I did this to make sure I was right, because ATP is probably the other option with this deck. There's not enough in logistics. Logistics doesn't bring me much in this deck. Politics can bring me a lot of subterfuge and something like civilian settlement, which could be a game breaker. But I might have enough of those already, and I mightn't need that. And the other thing is that if I'm playing subterfuge, I'm probably using those slots instead of missions. And my missions are actually quite strong. I've got 3 good finishers, or 2 good finishers and 1 damage booster that can make a lot of difference. And if you get the damage booster in with it on a stalemate, you can basically draw, he draw, until everyone gets down to 1 card, or they're forced to do it. So though unopposed isn't a game ender effectively, it is a card that can put you in a game-winning position. So it was an interesting exercise, and it made me happier with the direction I went. As I said, I went AMT. You could entertain politics, but do they bring me enough to sacrifice A, deployment slots, and B, probably missions? And is it worth playing, I don't know, 7 assemblies, 7 tactics, and 5 politics, and not draw a politics and then having to pay 9 for Miss Root or something crazy? Because the buyouts on Subterfuge are normally pretty horrific. So this is what I did. This is where I ended up. So if I look at my units, I kept Aris, and this would shock a number of people. I severely considered taking her out. I severely looked at the value of her over another unit, another vehicle, another unit on the table. Because at 4 cost, I could have Aris Sung, or I could have a Zeus, or I could have a Hankyu, or I could have, wherever it's gone, in fact it's not in there, I took it out at some point, the Fire Falcon, which seems to have disappeared. Well, I accidentally got rid of it. Yeah, I've missed the Fire Falcon off. So it's missing from here. Let me put that in. There we go. Where's the Fire Falcon? Is it gone? Oh well, I'll leave that for the moment. It should be in there. Okay. Oh yeah, I think I tweaked it and took the Black Hawk out, and there's a Fire Falcon to go into here. Let's add that in there. That's better, because that now makes 95. I must have accidentally deleted it at some point. Okay. So I seriously thought about taking Aris out. In this deck, I could put a Black Hawk in, for example. I didn't play that. I didn't play the Banshee. I didn't play the Berserker. I didn't play the Blackjack. Okay. So I didn't play the Spider. All right. So this is where I went. So I went AMT. I kept Aris after a lot of debate. The Bulldog, 1 cost, 1M. That went straight in. The Caesar. This is from the Steiner deck. A 2/6/6. Okay, it's all right. It's a little frail for what it is, but it's got long range 2, and that was definitely worth it. Honestly, I don't think I ever got it on the table, or if I did, it was at the end of the game and whatever. I don't remember the Caesar doing that much for me. But hey, the Cavalry. Now I went AMT. But the nice thing with the Cavalry is it's only got 1 L buyout. So paying 2 for a 032 Dash VTOL is like paying 2 for a Dasher Prime. And the fact that it dashed gave me a little bit of surprise. So your opponent could be thinking I'm safe, and then you can dash a Cavalry onto the table and get an additional attack in, and it might be enough to swing the game. Against... I think it was John Mike playing Wolf. He put an SRM carrier on the table. And by SRM carrier, I mean one of those horrible little 1/1 armor structure, 9 damage things. And I just looked at that and thought, that's going to hurt. And I literally, the cavalry went straight out and smacked it. And because it wasn't guarded, because it can't be, and the cavalry's a VTOL, I could pick it off. But 9 damage coming my way was either a unit blocked, and that would kill something like an exterminator quite easy. So I quite happily sacrificed the cavalry for that. And because it's VTOL, it's a bit of a pest. You can chip away for a couple of damage here and there if the stockpile's not guarded, and it kind of forces your opponent to guard instead of maybe attack. So VTOL's quite useful, quite powerful. The ubiquitous Centurion 9D, 162 Alpha 2. Maybe that's another Alpha strike unit in my deck that I could have considered with a sharpshooter. But at 2 and medium is just good value. The Corvus went in, a 165 for 4. Again, just value. Okay, it's slow, but it's going to deal something to somebody. Enfield went in, the Exterminator went in. Final push, as I said. The Fire Falcon C is a fast mech. Fire from cover, just to prevent things. Hanky C, because of the damage. The Hatchet Man, 163 overheat 1, hand-to-hand 1 for 3. Again, great value. Heroic Sack, Koshi Prime, Nexus, Night Sky. The Penetrator. The Penetrator. I had loads of discussion on this, and this, for me, was probably MVP. The most valuable card in my... Well, it wasn't the most valuable card in the deck, but it was the one that dealt or did the blow, and it shocked a lot of people, and I don't think a lot of people were expecting it. Okay, it's a crazy, crazy unit. It's a 284 anti-missile and jump, great, but it's got overheat 6 plus 3. So, for a start, you can get 7 damage out of it, but it literally blows itself up when it does so. So, there are a couple of plays that come to mind. The first play was in my game against Chester. He had a bit of a slow start in the first game, and then I kind of overran him a bit with this deck. And in the second game, it was the other way around. So we're both sitting on about 20 cards. I think I know I've got 21, and I think he's on about 17. And he attacks with a Spartan with a Redline pilot on it, doing 4, 5, 6, 7, and a Striker doing another 5. So that makes 12. And I had enough to kill him next turn, but I hadn't got any dash mechs. My cavalry had died. And therefore I couldn't afford to sacrifice a unit to block, because if I did, I wouldn't have enough to kill him and he'd wheedle me down. And I looked at that and I did the maths, because the Striker was the card, the mech doing 5 damage. He was going to play unopposed on if he got it. And the Ghost Bear deck, if I remember rightly, includes one. So I worked out that he could do 17 damage, I think it was, and I got 20 cards left, or 18 damage and I got 21. So providing he couldn't play a second mission and neither of those units jumped, then the most I could take left me on 3 cards and I could draw. So I took, in a game of 45 cards, I took a 17 card hit to win the game. I drew 2. I attacked with the Penetrator and overheated it for 7. He blocked. And I played Heroic Sacrifice to push 7 damage through to the stockpile. I mean, the Penetrator's in dust. It's been atomized. Forget blown up, it's been atomized. Because it gets double damage, and the 6 means 12 to it straight off. And then I had 5 units which I attacked with and played Final Push to deal 2 to the stockpile. And hit him for 17 and won the game. And then there was another game, and I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Aaron Masters, I think. where I put Aris Sung onto the penetrator to up the damage, to get the damage to 9, and played the heroic sack, killing Aris and atomizing the penetrator again to get 9 damage through to the stockpile. And he blocked. He had to block. And then I think I had another mech or a unit in order to push the damage through, which was enough. So I think I pulled the penetrator heroic sack trick 2 or 3 times, and it worked really well. And why the penetrator? Why not the Black Hawk? Why not the Banshee? It's really, really simple. It cost 5. Okay, it's slow, but it cost 5, which means it's out that much earlier. Okay, my sideboard, here they are, units I didn't include. 9 cost Berserker. I mean, it's horrific. 9 cost for 4 damage. That's awful. Black Hawk, 284 for 7. Okay, same damage, but it's 7. Okay, it's medium. Maybe if I'm going up against a guy, maybe something like the Comstar deck, I'd put this in, because at medium it's more durable. And there's a lot of mediums in that deck. Or the Banshee, and the Banshee is 8. And you're talking 5 overheat, 4 plus 3, you're talking 8 damage for 8. And it's purely speed. That penetrator at 5 cost, it's going to come out. And if it's not killed straight away and you've got heroic sack, it's going to go straight for the stockpile and do stuff. But it's that cheap. And that's why it went in above those others, you know. And arguably, Aris at 4, another reason why I was thinking I might take her out. Peregrine, 055, 4 damage, great, unopposed food, put it through to the stockpile, whatever. Raptor, a little bit of cover for fast, same with the Spectre. Stealth. This is probably the reason that I kept Aris. I have enough units to put Aris on to be comfortable, but this is probably the unit I want to put her on, because it bumps that up to 4, which is a good damage, nice numbers. And when you're playing against something like the Dragonflies and the fast Wolf and other decks, then having a fast blocker that's durable, and remember with Aris, it's count the number of units in a group that includes mech piloted by Aris Sung, prevent that much damage. It's automatically 1 damage prevented. And you've got +2 initiative. So arguably, if you've got a little Koshi coming along behind you, or the Raptor, and the guy decides to kill the Raptor and then you can prevent 2 on it with Aris, you actually save the Raptor if it's a fast blocker versus, say, a Phantom Bee or something or other. So this was the reason I kept Aris. The combo is a great combo. And yeah, great. There we go. It's there. I went with 7 assembly. I know a lot of people went 5 and 6. I went 7. I went 5 munitions, 5 tactics, and my other resource was the 1 war funds that I drew. That gave me 18. If you do the maths on 45 cards and you go 24, 12, 24, 18, 9, 18 is the rule. I went with that. I always had enough resource. I mean, the 1 or 2 games where I was a bit stuck for resources, but that always happens. I always had enough resources to be able to put something out and build what I wanted. But I never felt that I was overdrawing resources. Maybe I was a bit lucky. I don't know. The unopposed we mentioned. The urban mech at 143. Great value for 1. The medium speed Wolfhound, the Zeus and the Zukov giving 4 damage. And literally, that was my deck. That's what I played. So the missions, final push, fire from cover, heroic sack, unopposed. Simple as that. In some games, I would pull in carpet bombing. I had carpet bombing in the deck at some points. I put that in when I played Clan. There was a game, I think it was John Mike, where he got a couple of fast units and he put the Wolf High Command down early, and they all did loads and loads of damage. And I put a Raptor in front of it, or a Nexus, and I played carpet bombing and killed everything, my units and his. And then the next turn I was able to pick off the Wolf High Command. So that worked well. Intimidation tactics, I think, was in to start with, and I think I played against Chester and used it to keep a unit or two alive. But it came out after a while. And I went with an additional unit or two. Can't quite remember what I took in and out. Maybe it was the Caesar, which seemed to be a bit absent for me. I didn't seem to draw it or pull it. I probably should have another mission in here. But yeah. So what didn't make it? The Adam Steiner thing. Civilian settlement didn't make it. I took civilian settlement out. I mean, even at 5, you might consider that civilian settlement is worth it. But given what I'm playing is actually quite low cost in curve, if we look at the costs here, then my 1 cost units, I mean, I'm this again is luck of the draw, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 1 cost units. Okay, some of them aren't great, apparently, like the Irby and the Raptor and stuff. And arguably the Cavalry is a 2 cost because of paying the logistics buyout. But at 2 cost, I've got Centurion and Zukov. At 3, I've got Wolfhound, Stealth, Spectre, Exterminator, Hatchet Man. And then at 4, I've got Night Sky, Firefalcon, Peregrine, Corvus, Enfield, and Zeus, and Hankyu. And then after that, I've got the Penetrator at 5 and the Caesar at 6. I've got a very low curve deck, and I've got more mechs than I've got resources. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 missions, and I've got 18 resources. So I've got 23 units in the deck, which is possibly a little much. You could drop 1 or 2 of those without too many problems. But it meant with a low curve, I could just keep putting stuff out. 2 units a turn with this deck was quite possible without too many problems. Because I built it that way. I built it on low curve. I built it with numbers. I built it with AMT. I took out the stuff that didn't fit. I could pay 1 for that. Take Aris out and put a 1 cost because I'm paying for the L Bulldog in that does 2 damage and get an additional deployment. I could drop the Blackjack with the missiles. Decent card. Just didn't need the missiles to do that with the 2 missions that I've got to end the game. And missiles are always a bit iffy. Ramming speed. I like ramming speed. I think it's fun. The brutal punch is designed for the Berserker. There's no way it was going to make main deck. Trial of Blood Right just to draw Aris and play politics. Fall for it? No way. Sorry. Treachery. Treachery was an interesting one because it's a game end card. But paying 7 for it probably means I'm not going to put a unit out. And would I rather have a unit on the table? Probably have the unit on the table. Steiner High Command gives you an extra draw. I've got 45 cards. I mean, if it was 60, I'd think about going Subterfuge because I've got that much more spaces. Steel Mech is an interesting one, and this card is just so online play unfriendly. Scrap when revealed, choose an opponent and any mech she or he controls. You and that opponent hide a number of counters and then reveal them. Whoever gains more counters gains control of the mech. If you reveal the same number, the opponent retains control of it. If you reveal more counters, scrap twice as many cards from your stockpile. If the opponent revealed more counters, scrap that many cards from his or her stockpile. How do you hide tokens online? It just, yeah. Doesn't work, does it? You need webcams and honesties and stuff like that. It needs a rewrite for online. It probably should be something like roll a dice, If the numbers are the same, then your opponent keeps the mech. If it's lower, then they get it. If it's higher, you get it and deal the damage. But, on that, get their mech for 6, maybe. I just avoided it because it's fiddly to play online. Misru, yeah. Disguise Coordinates, again, could have played that. If you see someone attacking in a big group, you're probably going to think Final Push. Disguise Coordinates, great way to get around that. And maybe if I thought it was there, then I'd have played it. I know, yes, it's valid because of the format, not whether it's banned or not. Desert Wasteland probably could have gone in the deck. Probably could have gone in the deck versus certain factions like Comstar, for example, and Ghost Bear. But probably more reliable to have another unit. Again, you might do that. You might take that out. Again, it depends on what they draw as well. Coventry Metalwork is a piece of crap. 0-2p for munitions. You get to re-roll one of your mission. Re-rolled, not add to it. Re-roll it. And it costs politics. Just, why? Civilian settlement I talked about. I mean, I could have maybe dropped an assembly and played backing of the Grand Council so I could pull it with war funds and play civilian settlement. Maybe. But I'd rather go with reliability. It's easier. It's simple. I know what I'm trying to do. And on 45 cards, you haven't really got that amount of time to mess around too much. And I think something like some of these, if the game was slower, if it was a 60 card game and being slower, then I'd probably have considered playing them a lot more. And probably maybe gone for 4 asset deck. I mean, most of the people I played had gone for 3. And that was, pretty good design on their part and pretty strong. I think Chester even managed to get to 2 with Ghost Bear. Or he got 2 with maybe a smidge of logistics. Just because I could put 9 assembly and 9 tactics in, but I could put 7 and 7 and play 4 logistics and restock every now and again. So yeah. For reference, I was due to play 8 matches. I played 7 of them. I played Chester first and won 2-0. I played Aaron Masters. I played John Mike. I played Mitch. I played Ian as well. Sorry, Ian. I played Ian. Chester was 2-0. I think John Mike was 2-0. Mitch was short time, so it was 1. And I think 1-0 to me, and the same with Ian. I think Ian had a bad draw on one of those occasions. Or one occasion there. I think Mitch was quite close, and I heroic sacked him. One was reasonably close. I think I final pushed him. The only person I didn't play was Travis, and that was time. But he'd got that Comstar deck, which, if you watch the video of that he showed of him playing Chester, I think I'd have been feeling pretty confident going into that, knowing that with Desert Wasteland in the sideboard, that would hurt a number of his units if he decided to attack. And a lot of his stuff was a lot more expensive. And I think the Comstar deck uses the Spider as the fast units, and therefore he's playing A and L. And your game-breaking card is Sandhurst, which means you're playing A, L, and P. And then you probably want tactics in there. So he's on a 4 asset deck, which really does hurt your resource distribution in this format. And not a lot of fast units, and I've got a few of those. So I'd have felt pretty confident going into that. I think I've got the deck to win, although it never happened because, as I said, my life changed and I ended up spending 4 hours a day in a hospital. So anyway, that's the deck I put together. If you want a copy, I'm happy to send you the copy. All the other cards are in the sideboard, which is the way, to be honest, to do this. If you decide to have a practice with a draft, then, and in fact, I'll just save this and save that as well, and I'll show you how to do it. Go for a new card pool and a new deck. You basically go and add your, where we go, Steiner starter, which I'll choose, and then we will add an Arsenal booster, which we will choose, and then we will add a Crusade booster, which we will choose, and then we can in here add all to deck. So all of these cards are now in my deck, and the way I would go through this is I would just, oh, they're in the sideboard. There we go. If you've got the sideboard selected, they go there. And then I would simply just drag and drop them. Oh, Heats into Destruction. Ah, Martha Pride. Brilliant. Have we got any Jade Falcon mechs? Oh, there's a Fire Falcon Prime there. There's a Fire Falcon C there. Wow. You might play Martha. That's on this deck. Yes. How many Jade Falcons? 1, 2, 3. Oh, Nightjar C. I'm not going to hit the table, probably. You might play Martha on... Oh, you've only got 2 Jade Falcon cards. Poor, what a shit draw. Drawing Martha. Where are we? Where's the expansions then? Arsenal. The rare in Arsenal is... In fact, let's do it this way and look at the rarities. Steel Mac, Adam Steiner, Martha Pride. The rare is the Magi. 272. Oh, horrible. Horrible. Yes, I wouldn't want that. But if you put them in the sideboard, then you just drag and drop into your deck, and your sideboard stays. So all 90 cards are available to you. As I said, there were 5 others, 1 of each resource, which is why it was a 95 card deck. For reference, if you are playing in a physical version of this, so you've got the starter decks and you've got some boosters, you open everything and you list your entire deck, nominated to start with, and you list your entire sideboard. Normally it's on a piece of paper and handed into the tournament officials, so they have a reference of every card that you have. It stops people moving stuff in and out, and you must start each game with the nominated deck that you start with, and then after the first game you pull your sideboard in and out. So it's just like normal play. It's just your sideboard is 50 cards or whatever else it is, and you must reset your deck to the one that you have nominated and is documented with the DCI officials. So just for those people that want to run it properly, if you're playing with a full deck, so to speak. I know some of us do not play with a full deck. No sarcastic comments either. So there you go. That was the deck I ran. I ended up with a record of 7-0-0. I won all 7 games I played. I did not lose any, and I did not draw any, and I didn't complete 1 match, which I was reasonably comfortable on. And I placed first with it, which I was really pleased with, having not played for quite a while, and having drawn Steiner, which is probably not the best deck in there. There are a few other decks I would have avoided given half the chance, and a few other decks I'd have considered. And maybe that's another stream, going through each of the CE starters and telling you whether they're particularly good, bad, indifferent, or ugly. But that's not going to be today. It will be another day if it happens. Excuse me. So, there you go. That's what I played. That's the record I ran with. I'm pretty happy with that. So, as I said, if you want a copy, happy to send you that or dump it somewhere, whatever. Make your own deck, make your own version of it. For those of you that are interested in draft, I would heartily suggest and I'll just find it, diagram to have a look at. If you get the time, it allows you to focus and put things together, and you can work out whether it's a good move or not, and it just clarifies your thoughts, and it's an interesting process to go through. and it just crystallizes stuff. And it was clear to me after this that although I could play politics, I didn't want to. I wasn't happy with it. It didn't work for me, and I'd rather go with something that was maybe a little more traditional, shall we say. But it is a good exercise. So anyway, I've managed to do it. I've held up my promise. I have told you what I ran in the sealed tournament and how it turned out, which was pretty good. And hopefully you found that useful. And hopefully again I'll see you, or hopefully it won't be too long until I get to do it again. I think next week will be quite telling, and I've got a few other things on the radar that I can't move or have to commit to. So I'm not sure when I'll be doing this again. It could be later this week. It could be a month. The world is a massive spaghetti at the moment. So anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Look after yourselves. It's a big bad word out there.